I want to bring in NBC News Justice reporter Ryan Riley. Also with me, former Assistant Director for Counterintelligence at the FBI, Frank Figliuzzi, and MSNBC security analyst. Frank, Senator Blumenthal says that Kash Patel in charge would mean the FBI would turn into a, quote, sycophantic goon squad. Republicans argue that the FBI needs a shakeup, needs some reform. Do we have indications already of what the FBI is likely to look like with him at the helm?
Indeed, Chris, we don't need to be clairvoyant or engage in conjecture. We just need to take Patel's own words and writings and actions, and we've got a recipe for severe abuse that could happen with him at the helm of the FBI. The kind of abuse we haven't seen since J. Edgar Hoover illegally wiretapping and planting evidence against people he thought were a threat to him and to the nation. Look, Patel's been accused multiple times of deceit regarding sensitive hostage negotiations, hostage rescue. He demanded from DOJ a criminal immunity promise in order to testify to a grand jury about the Mar-a-Lago case. And now we've learned that he's been paid by the Russians for a speaking engagement, tens of thousands of dollars. He owns $1 million or more in stock in a Chinese company. And he's told us repeatedly that, yes, he has an enemies list. He may deny that language, but we've already seen the evidence. At DOJ, prosecutors being fired. At FBI, lists of names of agents who worked the January 6 cases being demanded. He's in on that, and we're going to see it when I think day one occurs with him walking into the Hoover building.
In fact, Senator Dick Durbin sent a letter to DOJ accusing Patel of secretly ordering the fire of FBI officials, even though he wasn't even an FBI in charge of the FBI yet. But are there, let me ask you this, Ryan, do we know, are there indications that that is indeed what happened?
You know, it's a tough question because I think we know that there are lots of people who are linked to Kash Patel in important roles currently at the FBI. And that was something that he answered, on the record during his confirmation hearing, said, acknowledged that he knew some of these people who were already in the Bureau. And that raised a lot of red flags because one individual had a connection to Elon Musk. And just this idea of having these outsiders who did not have the background of the FBI, were not just career FBI employees in these positions, obviously raised a lot of questions. I spoke with Kyle Seraphin, who's one of these former FBI special agents who's pretty close with Kash Patel. In fact, Kash Patel gave Kyle Seraphin some money, as well as some other former FBI special agents after they were sort of pushed out of the Bureau for various reasons. And so he has this ongoing relationship with them. In fact, Kash Patel called a number of these individuals immediately after he was nominated. And what Kyle Seraphin was saying to me is essentially that it would make sense that, that someone who was coming in was in communication and vaguely aware, but he insisted that, that Kash Patel was not pulling the strings of these actual orders and making the order directly. Obviously, that would be inappropriate. So I think we're sort of in this muddled territory. And of course, I think, just based on the idea that a lot of people are using encrypted communications these days, will we ever get an answer to that question of how much of a role that Kash Patel played in this? Or was this all just face-to-face? Was he sort of being read in? I don't know if we're ever going to be able to get sort of to the bottom of that question, certainly in time for Kash Patel's confirmation vote ultimately.
Which leads me to the question, Frank, what you're hearing from folks, your friends who are still inside the FBI.
Yeah, they're leaving. That's what I'm hearing. They're out. Their resumes are out. They're interviewing. They understand they're going to be asked to violate their oath to protect, preserve, and defend the Constitution. They see the prosecutors being fired. They see the list being demanded. Probationary agents who have no due process rights, that list has been demanded. They're seemingly going to get fired. The top layer of management is gone. Now we understand every U.S. attorney is going to be replaced. And who are they going to be replaced with? Trump sycophants. So they're leaving. That's what's happening. And there's no one in line to replace them because there's a hiring freeze at the FBI.
Frank Figliuzzi and Ryan Riley, guys, thanks so much.